This is dkdynamite, and this is my full strategy guide for how to complete Dead Ops Arcade 4, defeat the Papaback, unlock a trophy, and even a universal camo. Definitely stay tuned. As a reminder, folks, you can save 12% off any order at Control Freak when you use code DYNAMITE, including for the brand new Black Ops 7 Performance thumbsticks. This set does include 2 in-game weapon charm codes, and there's even a collector's box. Once again, that's code DYNAMITE with the link in this video's description. Now, a big goal with this video is that you can have this playing in the background as you're progressing your way through the different arenas, just to know what you're getting yourself into as far as the enemies go, as far as bonus items you could pick up, and how you could survive to make this 80-round playthrough even easier. Now, there's 3 achievements available for Dead Ops Arcade 4, one of which is Reunited with Fidelina, the same trophy name that we saw back in Cold War for Dead Ops Arcade 3, and you only unlock this trophy for beating Dead Ops in normal difficulty or higher. Now, Dead Ops 4 includes 20 unique arenas, 10 bonus rooms, and a total of 80 levels that you're going to have to finish in order to reach the Papaback boss fight. But as a huge disclaimer, I wasn't able to play this in co-op within first person because right now, first person is limited to just solo and the casual game mode. The casual game mode limits Dead Ops Arcade 4 to just 40 rounds. That does include the Papaback boss fights, but if you beat it, you won't unlock the trophy, nor will you get the rare universal camo. Now, if you're completely new to Dead Ops and never played the old iterations, or if you just want to brush up on some skills, then yes, I'd recommend going in, getting your feet wet with the casual mode to prepare yourself better for the normal version and eventually the hardcore version of this mode, which is going to be coming post-launch. Now, I'll end up making a separate video on this in the future, but the standard advanced start LTM from Cold War's Dead Ops is also coming back in the future for BO7, meaning you'll be able to save checkpoints so that you can always resume wherever you left off. Now, there is currently a save and quit option if you're on solo, which creates a separate file from regular round-based zombies. But feel free to refer to timestamps down below as I've broken this video up amongst the 18 different arenas available, which you're going to be encountering little by little. But as far as how long this took to complete, I would say it was roughly a 4.5 hour game, but that's because we were experiencing all of the bonus rooms, which are optional of course, and we took a couple of minutes here and there to go ahead and use the bathroom, spin for Gobblegums, which probably ate up another half an hour or more, I'd say. But these are the Gobblegum packs that I brought into my match of Dead Ops. Of course, these are completely optional. You don't need Gobblegums to beat Dead Ops Arcade 4, but this is a brand new system we've never seen in Dead Ops before. The ability to pop consumables and also buy upgrades, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But as far as the Gobblegums I'd recommend bringing in, these are the packs that I found the most useful. Gobblegums in Dead Ops Arcade work completely differently from the Gobblegums we use in regular round-based. But amongst the best Gobblegums include wall-to-wall clearance, where a nuke will activate free of charge on your position every 10 seconds. Phoenix Up is by far the best Gobblegum for Dead Ops Arcade. I'm assuming if you guys out there are hardcore Zombies fans from either BO6 or currently 7, then you probably have a surplus of gums you're likely never going to use in regular round-based. Instead of crushing them, which you can also do in Dead Ops, I'd recommend using some of the ones you're never going to within this playthrough. Phoenix Up will actually give all players in that match an extra life every time you pop it, which can honestly save a run, especially if you're low on lives towards the later half of a game, which gets pretty difficult. And then for some of these other ones, right, you can have only Monkey Bomb spawning instead of items, which does not affect weapon or treasure spawns. Wonder Bar here, which allows you at the start of each round for 30 minutes to become a mutant or to receive a chicken. Then there's Shields Up, which allows you to gain a barrel and saw blade item. Again, if you want to read what all the Gobblegums do in Dead Ops, you can check them out for yourself in the Gobblegum menu, but these are by far the most useful. I also have other packs here, which do come with some other unique abilities that I think were helpful. I mean, Gift Card, for example, if you want to use it in Dead Ops, gives you $30,000, which can come in handy for the Slayer Mart, which again, we'll touch on in a little bit. But I also want to mention Requipment, for example, giving you a random combination of 4 nukes and boosts, also can help you out if you're running low on those abilities later in the game. But of course, every 4 rounds, you're going to be switching to a different arena, and when you spawn in, it'll be a very similar starting room to all the other iterations of Dead Ops Arcade that we've played. You got to go through 4 rounds with that day and night cycle, and by the time it hits nighttime, you're getting towards the end of being in that arena. By the end of Arena 1, Papaback will spawn in, and then a teleporter will appear, taking you to the next arena. It's a relatively easy arena, if I had to say. You can get a couple of boosts here. Still watch your back, because there's about 4 spawn points as you're in the center. Now, I'd also like to remind you that before you're able to teleport to a new arena, that's your chance to spin the Gobblegum machine. You can spin as many as you'd like, so long as it's before the countdown timer ends, which auto-advances you to the next stage. But next up, we have the Armor Plate Special, aka Babylon. So you'll likely notice throughout this run that there's plenty of areas that are reused from Black Ops 6, and Babylon's pretty easy to navigate, especially if you played a lot of multiplayer last year. I was lucky enough to find a first-person card, which, just like previous Dead Ops iterations, will spawn in randomly throughout the match. I have to say, first-person looks absolutely beautiful inside of Dead Ops Arcade 4. Really excited to see an update to first-person in the long run, which I'm sure is going to add full co-op and standard support, because I feel like I play better in first-person, right? I'm not much of a top-down view gamer, but still did pretty well here in this match. Also have to give a big shout-out to Rambo, a Dead Ops Arcade world record holder. By far one of the best players, if not the best player, that has ever touched Dead Ops. It was an honor being able to play with them live on stream, and I plan on doing more Dead Ops runs in the future that he'll also be a part of. But make sure you guys subscribe to him. His channel is going to be linked down below. We could not have recorded this playthrough without him. It truly means the world that he took the time out of his day to go ahead and run all 80 levels here. Now, the spawns are pretty easy to navigate in Babylon. Don't forget about the lightning poles, which you've seen in every Dead Ops by now. If you touch them, you instantly die, and you're also one-tap the entire game of Dead Ops. So unless you get armor plates later, you gotta watch out for those sneaky spawns, which can very easily take you down. And you'll also notice throughout the run that you can pretty much have one person camp by one spawn point and then mow all the enemies down from there until the later rounds where things get very hectic, especially if you don't have an upgraded weapon. It's where you gotta move around a little bit and do a bit of training. But we then have a Silverback challenge with ATVs. Again, something very fun, and this one's not one that you can skip, but it's something original for Dead Ops Arcade 4, which I guess if you like Rocket League or Mario Kart, you'll have an absolute blast with. But you'll also notice the first place winner of this race will be given a reward. I managed to win the first one and get my hands on the jet gun, which was only available for a limited time during the next arena, but still an absolute blast. We then have the Barrel O Laps. This is a map that we saw in Black Ops 6's later seasons. This is Barrage. And it was pretty wild, as you can see here, a bunch of barrels just spawning absolutely everywhere. This is an arena where I'd pop some nukes every time things get a little too claustrophobic. If there's too many barrels near you, just go ahead and nuke, but also try to give each other some space, but not bringing the zombies or colliding trains or anything, because those explosions will insta-down you. I'd also like to remind you that you can actually change your camera's view with triangle on a PlayStation remote, Y on an Xbox. Sometimes you want to zoom in a little bit more, and that's totally cool for bird's eye view top-down gameplay, but oftentimes with some of these really claustrophobic and hectic arenas, I would like the largest view possible, so I zoom all the way out. But speaking of wild, I'm sure you guys are wondering if there is a wild in Dead Ops Arcade 4. Unfortunately, there isn't, but there are quite a few bonus areas that we'll get to later, which in my opinion are actually better than the wild. Just my opinion, but you're also going to end up seeing a Silverback challenge, the Papaback Chopper Attack. A very classic-like experience, which again is just for fun. In most of these bonus arenas, if you die, it won't actually take one of your lives from you, but there are some bonus arenas where your lives do matter, and the stakes are incredibly high. But as far as this one goes, you want to avoid the shots that are being fired at you, and you want to hit the gasoline can so you get more time in the air. And there's other power-ups that you could pick up while in this chopper, again, waiting for those lasers to disappear, shooting down those turrets, and you can get a couple of bonuses if you make it to the very end. There's nukes, there's lightning boost, but if you end up dying while in the chopper, that's it. You just have to wait until all teammates end up dying so that you can move on to the next stage. But we're then going to be going to Dead Man's Party, aka the cemetery grounds from Liberty Falls. So hardcore Zombies fans will certainly recognize this one, and you can kind of stand still a little bit just managing those spawns. Again, there's about 4 spawns here that I think is suitable for each player, but depending on the weaponry that you have could mean that you got to move around a little bit more. And as a reminder, every so often as you hit big milestones, I believe it's every 200,000 score, you'll end up getting a free life. But now we have one of my favorite parts of Dead Ops Arcade 4, the Dark Crypt, allowing you to access the Slayer Mart, which is a brand new system we've never seen in Dead Ops before, allowing you to buy upgrades using cash. Again, if you pop a gift card, you'll have plenty of money to go ahead and use in the Slayer Mart, but along the way, as you complete rounds, you don't go down, and as you kill a bunch of bosses, you'll be given cash that you can use inside of this mart, and don't forget, you can also re-roll the items that you see here on this list. Some of them are more expensive. Some of them are more expensive than others. If you see a heart, make sure you stock up on those. Those are extra lives for you and your entire team. But there's wonder weapons here, tanks, helicopters, extra abilities for just your operator. There's an arcade machine, which will auto-trigger a bonus round if you go ahead and buy that. If you see those arcade machines spawn in randomly, I also recommend picking those up so that you can get a little chance to breathe and pick up some bonus gems or something. There's even a dog for multiplayer here, which is wild, and you may also see some field upgrades. I end up buying Ether Shroud very late into this game, which I highly recommend. But don't forget, everything you do purchase in the Slayer Mart will be delivered to you upon the start of the next round, not right away when you buy it. But when going back to Liberty Falls after the Slayer Mart, watch out for these green ghouls, which you may experience more of later on in this run. They can instantly kill you if you're in the way of their path. But next up, we're going to the Slayer Arena, also a very high-risk, high-reward experience that you'll see a couple of other times throughout a full playthrough of Dead Ops Arcade 4. This is a bonus arena where you have unlimited lives until the underboss ends up spawning in. In this case, as you can see, once that timer runs down, the Citadel Guardian boss will end up spawning in. This is where the stakes get even higher, because if you defeat the Guardian, you'll be given another opportunity to use the Slayer Mart to purchase even more upgrades. This gets absolutely hectic, so if you want to run a bunch of nukes lightning around the boss, feel free to do so, but I feel like on solo, it's a bit more manageable to control some of the trains and have a good path going, whereas on co-op, lots of things are intertwining at once, so communication is key. If somebody gets lucky to get into a Rhino or a Hind, that's where you're in luck, where you're probably going to be able to kill the boss just on your own, whereas the other teammates can go ahead and just make sure they survive and don't waste any more lives. Again, with these mini bosses you'll experience in the Slayer arenas, you have the option to abort and leave if you don't want to risk any of your actual lives. But the Guardian's honestly not that tanky. I think if anything, it's a bit more difficult to navigate when there's parasites flying at you and super sprinters, manglers. This is pretty tough, I'm not gonna lie. Arguably one of the toughest arenas in all of Dead Ops Arcade 4. The explosions from Doppelgas can also insta-down you, which gets very frustrating. But next up, we'll be going to the Dirt Nap Surprise, another area of Liberty Falls, an inaccessible area from the original round-based map, but does remind me of some other areas we've seen in Dead Ops before, where it's just a circle of spawns right around you. Manage to get another first-person drop, which you'll also be in when you end up using a Mutant Injection. Mutant Injections are a ton of fun, especially when you use Wonder Bar, because for 30 minutes straight, every time a new round begins, there's a chance that you'll become a Mangler. The jet gun is also an absolute blast, no pun intended, especially when it's upgraded, and you can also use the detonate ability with it if you just get tired of sucking everything up, as we were able to do back in Black Ops 6. But this is also an arena where one person can manage one spawn at a time, and if that's the case, if everybody's on their P's and Q's, none of the zombies really bleed too much into the center of the arena, making this one a lot easier than some of the previous claustrophobic areas that we were in. But after this, you come across a bonus hangar. I do love the opportunities every now and again where you get about a minute or upwards of 4 to maybe take a bathroom break. Of course, you can also co-op pause the game for upwards of 15 minutes total in that match if anybody has to get up for a second to go take care of something. But now we're heading to the Long Climb, where you can pick your fate, earn a trophy while doing so, and also experience another mini-boss. Don't use the lightning boost like I did, because it actually threw me off the cliff a couple of times, which actually cost me a few lives here. And yes, your lives do matter in some of these bonus arenas like I said, so you gotta be real careful. But as you make your way up, there'll be a Xursa bear from Ashes of the Damned, which you can go ahead and take out. Got some pretty clean gameplay of this while in first person. Typically when first person cards drop, it'll give one to everyone on your team, which is great. And as you can see at the very top, there is another Slayer Mart that you could take advantage of, and a 10-minute countdown timer from the moment that you got in here. So if you killed Xursa in about 3-4 minutes, you should have another couple minutes to still rest and do whatever you need to do. But from where I'm standing, the bottom right corner is going to be the fate of Firepower, giving that player a permanent death machine. The bottom left is Furious Feet, which I grabbed, allowing me to move a lot faster and start every round with a minimum of 3 lightning bolts. I typically grab this fate with every Dead Ops run that I do. It's always a ton of fun. And then the top left here is Fortune and Fortitude. The player's base multiplier there is going to be permanently increased to 2, with all pickups lasting twice as long for them. And the top right is going to be the Friendship Fate, where that player is given a permanent chicken power-up, and any additional chickens they grab will also last twice as long. These are of course the same fates that we've seen with every single Dead Ops iteration. But then for the Fur and Flame challenge around here, this is going to put you in, I believe, the boss arena from Citadel Day More. It gets a little tough. Again, you have that circular focus gameplay as we saw earlier with several different spawn points. If you guys want to run clockwise, try to get the same train going, that's fine. But if you guys feel powerful enough, then try to manage one spawn each. However, as you can see here, things got pretty damn hectic, and a Mutant Injection did come in clutch. You're then going to see a bonus room, the Chicken Nest. If you want to go ahead and shoot all those eggs, feel free to do so. Try to get them all blown up, and you can get a bunch of bonus power-ups from that as well. We then have 8 eyes, 8 legs. This is going to be another area, one of the main rooms of Citadel de Mor, which we just saw last year. And we got one of the coolest bonus rooms ever coming right up, as you're about to see. But if you guys are familiar with Citadel, then you'll probably know exactly how to train in this spot, especially if you're on solo. Now, spiders could get quite annoying. I mean, some of these enemies, like the Ravagers, for example, move incredibly fast. Gotta really watch out and pay close attention. Don't even look at your phone for a second unless it's the end of an actual round. But almost every round of one arena plays just about the same. Obviously, you'll see tougher and tougher enemies spawn in some of the later rounds in one specific arena. But we then have the House of the Snibble Snap Silverback Challenge. Arguably one of the coolest bonus levels, I think, in any iteration of Dead Ops, which I was a real big fan of here. Remind me of, like, you know, a Chuck E. Cheese game or something from Dave & Buster's. An absolute blast. Again, you guys are going to be competing against each other to get the most kills with your weapon. And as you guys see power-ups just floating in the chandeliers or in the corners of certain rooms, you can shoot them to collect them as you would in an equivalent arcade game that you could play IRL. But at the very end, a bunch of gems and a bunch of coins will spawn in, which you're going to also have to fight to go ahead and claim. We then have Wicked Which Way Goes, another area of Citadel here. As you guys will see, there's also a flogger trap you have to watch out for, because I actually walked into it a couple of times by mistake. Make sure you guys not getting down by a silly trap like that, because that's just a waste of a life. Now, this one was a little bit easier, where we all just kind of controlled one spawn, and if we ever had any trouble, we would move a little bit towards the flogger so that that trap can get some free kills for us. You'll then see a bonus power room with boxing gloves, Tesla coils, even mutant injections, and a couple of lightning boosts, which I highly recommend stocking up on the best that you can. You'll then move to the Cradle Garden of Evil. This is going to be on Hacienda, another fan favorite map from Black Ops 4 multiplayer, which was also in BO6. I'm also curious how often you guys saw the first person card drops, because we were hoping to see a few more in our match. We didn't get too many, but whenever we did, we got incredibly excited, of course, being able to experience Dead Ops from a first person view. We then have the Silverback Challenge with motorbikes this time around. Again, if you're familiar with the motorcycles in Warzone, you're probably familiar with how the gameplay feels with these bikes inside of Call of Duty. Another pretty cool opportunity. If you do end up getting first place, you'll get rewarded with possibly a wonder weapon or an extra life or a bunch of other useful goodies. But there's also speed boosts you can use while in the motorcycle. You got to make sure that you're hitting those jelly pads to get a bit of a boost and not fall straight to the mud. But we then have another Slayer Arena. Again, watch out for the spikes on the ground. These spawns get wild, and as you'll see, there's these plants also shooting spores at you, which you definitely want to avoid. They could slow you down when hit by them, and the goal here is to wait until that countdown timer completes. At that point, you have the option to exit the arena if you don't want to risk your lives with defeating another boss, which will then grant you the ability to access the Slayer Mart. But yes, the Z-Rex from the Shattered Veil is the mini-boss here inside of this Slayer challenge. The problem with this one, though, which I'm sure is going to get patched soon, is that there is a chance that the Z-Rex will actually fall underneath the map, which won't allow you to actually kill him even if you keep dropping nukes, which means you won't actually complete this Slayer challenge to then access the Slayer Mart. But I have seen other squads successfully beat the Z-Rex, so it was certainly just some bad luck here in our match specifically. But if this has happened to you, feel free to let me know in the comments. We then have the Shogun Ghoul Town Arena. As you guys will see here, we're on round 37 now, which is wild. This one wasn't too bad. I would say things got a bit hectic with those doppelgas, but so long as you're not near his blast radius or any other explosions, then you should be alright. But again, since you're one tap, there's often times where you think you're doing well, and then all of a sudden a random explosion just downs you, which gets very frustrating. In that case, redeeming yourself with doing more bonus arenas to get extra lives or popping Phoenix ups will make up for some of those silly downs, which you inevitably will experience in your first run. Now, considering those lightning rods are towards the right of this bridge, if you're standing on it, that just means a lot of the zombies coming from that direction could be taken out when they're activated. If you want to pull an army of two and stand on this bridge with your teammate or with everybody, you can also probably pull off just standing still in the middle and taking out just those two paths where the zombies are coming from. There's then a Silverback Slideway Challenge, which got introduced late into Cold War Cycle. Again, a cool opportunity to get some bonus drops if you could find them. And it also looks like downs in this Slideway mission won't actually take away your lives either. But now you're going to enter the spawn room of Citadel de Mor. This is dead drops on my pillow. You want to watch out for those drops from above. There's X's on the ground that you're going to have to avoid. The cool thing is the traps from Citadel are also available in this arena, and you can activate one at a time, but if you each stand on one at the same time, it'll actually trigger a big Tesla Storm-like ability because you stepped on those symbols. You can only activate that once while in this arena though, so make sure you guys use that wisely when enemies get a little too tough. You'll come across another bonus room where in the corner you can actually find the jet gun. You can't really see it, but it's sitting there in the corner. Feel free to pick that one up if you guys want to use that instead of, let's say, the crossbow or a ray gun, even a shotgun. Lots of options here in this room to choose from. But we're then going to make our way to Launch Decay. Again, back on Hacienda. This is probably one of the hardest arenas that we had to play. We lost lots of lives in here. This got real claustrophobic real quickly. I mean, again, probably an arena that isn't that bad to navigate on solo if you know what you're doing, but with 4 people, you gotta have good communication. Make sure you guys are moving in a clockwise or counterclockwise position, not intersecting all those trains, which can very easily take you down in just the blink of an eye. But this is one of those arenas where I'd absolutely recommend going ahead and dropping a bunch of nukes. Even if you're low on them, you'll get chances to get even more later. Would highly recommend just flying through this Hacienda arena because, like I said, I just wasn't a big fan of this one. Now, I'm pretty confident in saying that some of the arenas I wasn't very good at, like this one from top-down view, would probably be an arena that I'm a lot better at when I'm playing in first person, utilizing Omni movement, since I'm more comfortable with that style of gameplay. And I'm sure a lot of you guys out there might even feel the same about such a tight space like this. But after going through the next silverback challenge here with the helicopters, you'll be taken to the Deadfall Liberty. Yes, this is the spawn room of Liberty Falls, but I believe it's the version from Haven's Hollow, the upcoming Resurgence map for BO7 Warzone Season 1. Looks a little bit different from the round-based version we had in Black Ops 6 last year. There's obviously even more detail in the distance, which I suspect is probably from the newer version being used for Warzone. Now, this area was pretty big, didn't really have much trouble, and also managed to pull a mutant injection, which helped us fly through this even faster. Once again, you're going to be taken to a silverback slideway challenge. There's ascenders, there's gems, lots of bonus lives you can grab if you manage to explore every inch of this level. Again, if somebody makes it straight to the end and then goes ahead and exits, then you could skip most of the exploration here if you want, if you're trying to speed run. But I'd say, especially if you're getting low on your drops, on your abilities, these are some of the bonus arenas where, again, you get about 10 minutes to explore, so may as well take advantage of that time to get as many boosts as you possibly can. But as another reminder, every time you finish an arena, feel free to take as much time as you need. I mean, realistically, only about 4 minutes because you'll then get auto-advance to the next arena, but take your time, stock up on those gums, even if it's going to take you a bunch of extra spins to, let's say, get multiple Phoenix ups or multiple equipments, whichever gums you want to run. Feel free to burn through a whole bunch of Gobblegums, especially the ones you know you're never going to use in regular round-based. May as well put them to use somewhere, since we're not likely going to get a Newton's Cookbook inside of BO7. But you're then going to be taken to Heirloom, a face-off map from Black Ops 7 multiplayer. Gotta watch out for those lasers. As you'll see, it'll indicate whenever the laser is about to activate, so make sure you get through them or use them to your advantage whenever you can. If, let's say, you have a big train and the laser's about to spawn, run that train right through, let the laser actually kill some of the zombies for you, and you can actually manage this space quite well. It looks pretty tight, but we managed to hold our own. As you can see here, if a laser's ever blocking your way and you got some zombies coming towards you, that's where you want to use a lightning boost or even a nuke. You're then going to enter a bank vault, plenty of gems that you can go ahead and grab. Again, an inaccessible area that we didn't get to see back inside of Black Ops 6. And don't forget, if you have the chicken fate, and if you manage to find upwards of 5 chicken drops and you have them all at once, that'll also give you a trophy, which can come in handy for all the achievement hunters. But now we have Population 0. The next challenge round does take place in none other than Nuketown. This is a really cool arena, which luckily has a very easy camping spot where no zombies can actually spawn from behind. In this case, you're going to be seeing mannequins. I was absolutely dumbfounded when I got to play this during the demo over at God Next. The area looks great. It's cool to see Nuketown change as the day and night cycle does proceed throughout this run. But like I said earlier, if you see an arcade machine drop, feel free to pick up that power-up because it'll bring you to a bonus room guaranteed. There might be some bonus rooms that you saw in my playthrough that you may not experience in your game if you guys didn't pick up an arcade power-up. But we're then going to enter the Hazard Zone. About halfway through this Nuketown arena, you have another opportunity to use the Slayer Mart. You're also going to notice that after you picked up your Fate, there are now upgrades for your Fate in the Slayer Mart, which are pretty costly. But if you use a gift card Gobblegum, or if you've been doing very well, then you should have plenty of cash to be able to buy at least the most expensive item in the mart, even if it's the only thing you are able to afford. Don't forget to take advantage of those rerolls if you don't like what you see on the list of upgrades, because you never know, you can reroll it like 4 or 5 times and get a bunch of extra lives. Also reminding you again that you won't be given any of these rewards until you spawn into the very next round. Managed to get some very beautiful first-person gameplay here with the minigun on top of that. I mean, these Slayer Marts could honestly make or break a run. I mean, maybe you guys are not doing as great, and a Slayer Mart could redeem just about everything about the gameplay, whether it's getting some extra lives, whether it's getting some very overpowered abilities that last 10 or 30 minutes. This could be where you turn things around. But now we have Run Fast, Die Fast, similar to Dead Ops Arcade 3, an ice rink. This is where your movement's going to be pretty rough, especially if you have the Furious Feet Fate, which makes you move even faster. I'd recommend moving in a clockwise position as you guys manage the different spawns here. There's quite a few spawn points, but luckily there is an area in particular, which you're going to see us at, where you can just precisely worry about 2 different pathways where the zombies are running from, since they can't actually spawn behind you, as you can see in this corner. We then have the Pirate Plunder bonus room, some extra gems that you can go ahead and grab before you're taken right back to the ice rink. Luckily, we managed to get brought into the Kaboom room, which was actually crazy. As you can see, there are so many nukes just sitting there. Obviously, I'd recommend giving as many of those as you can to the player on your team that maybe has the least. But if you all have just about the same power-ups, then you can go ahead and distribute those evenly. But we're not done with the ice yet, folks. We then have the Ice Terror Challenge round, which will end up turning into a big Slayer Challenge round that you guys will see in a second. But we then have the Deep Descent Silverback Challenge. You guys are probably familiar with a lot of OG computer games that play just like this. Drop some comments down below on some of the games that you guys fondly remember. But as you make your way all the way down, again, remember that you could take fall damage and actually down. It won't sacrifice any of your actual lives. But as you make your way down, there's gems, there's some bonus drops, and you can go ahead and exit where you're brought right back into the ice. We didn't really have any problems navigating this one, but keep in mind with Dead Ops Arcade 1, the boss fight was level 40. Dead Ops Arcade 2 and 3, 64. And as you can see, we're just about at the 69 mark, and we're still not at the boss yet. We got about 12 more levels to go. The Papaback is going to go ahead and greet you here right as you enter a new area. But this is another Slayer arena. Again, you won't be able to lose your lives until that countdown timer comes to an end. And when it does, you're going to see some pretty scary bosses spawn in, including a Mega Abomination, which we saw plenty of over in BO6. Managed to take him down pretty well. I know some folks had a Hind, somebody had a Rhino from BO7 multiplayer, and this guy ended up dropping pretty damn quick. But also as a reminder, even if you do have extra lives and you go down in a Slayer challenge, you still gotta wait about 50 seconds before you can get back up unless your teammates stand on top of you, in which you'll end up getting revived faster. But we're almost done, folks. We then have the Swamp Not Drained challenge round here. Got a big Z-Rex skull in the middle, which we ended up finding, of course, in Ashes of the Damned as well. A very cool looking space. I'd say it's pretty big, though. It wasn't really as claustrophobic as I thought it was going to be, but occasionally you also see some presents, which can go ahead and drop you some pretty good loot, whether it's nukes, whether it's an extra life. Make sure you guys always pick those up whenever you see them. And you can also take advantage of those lightning poles there towards the left. You can actually bring a big train towards them to kill all the zombies for you if you'd like. And also to remind you, in case you didn't notice, I do have augments on Ether Shroud, and I managed to buy Ether Shroud from a Slayer Mart. Group Shroud actually works inside of Dead Ops Arcade. So yes, your augments do apply even in this game mode. We then have the Akari Exit Hazard Zone here, another bonus where your lives won't actually be lost if you down. Pretty detailed space, but this is where you'll get to experience one of the coolest bonus arenas in all of Dead Ops, and arguably is better than the Wild from Black Ops Cold War. So when you make it to a certain point in here, keep in mind you have like a 10-minute timer to explore all of these crypts. You'll be in full first person. I just can't wait to play full first person whenever it does end up dropping for the standard mode. But there's some Mission Impossible, Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones looking spaces here. Lots of dangerous spots that you're gonna have to avoid, make those correct jumps, do those wall runs, and you'll come across a bonus life towards the very end. Now it honestly feels like we're able to explore some extra areas of the Citadel Castle that we just didn't get to inside of Black Ops 6. Again, several free life drops in here if you want to save those Phoenix ups, or if you didn't get to buy any over at the Slayer Mart. You'll then come across a Zursa boss, pretty easy to beat. You have plenty of space in this room, and there's really no other zombies spawning in. Once you take down the bear, you'll get to access the Slayer Mart just one more time in this playthrough. Now, as we finished the 71st round, we ended up getting put into another hazard zone, Ikari Exit. You don't have to do this one if you don't want to, but again, if you're low on power-ups, I'd highly recommend it. You can, of course, exit and abort if you so please. Now, as you make it to 73, we're going to be going to 3x2, one of the final islands that we're going to be able to explore here inside of DOA 4. Now, again, it could be cool to stand side by side with your teammates trying to manage one spawn each, but at this point, you're on a pretty high round where standing still really isn't an option. But if you guys want to make your way to one corner and try to hold that down, feel free. But I'd honestly recommend running the best trains that you can and just communicating where you're actually going with your squad. Another arena here that I'd also recommend using Group Shroud on if you have that, in the case those heavy enemies do overwhelm you. But this is real important, folks. Once you complete round 76, this will be your final opportunity to use the Gobblegum machine. You're also not going to be able to use any Gobblegums in the next island, which is the boss fight island. So what you want to do if you have any timed Gobblegums is pop them now, because they'll still be in effect when you make it to the next island. You just won't be able to pop any new ones when you're on the next island. The fact that it doesn't warn you also makes this an extra challenge, but make sure you guys stock up on absolutely everything that you have. Use all the time that you're given while here in this prep period and pop all the Phoenix ups that you can to make sure you have plenty of lives going into the boss arena. But here we go, Red Now Dead. This is a very similar boss arena to the ones we saw in Dead Ops 1, 2, and 3. This is again where you want to put in your all, making sure you're not going down the next couple of rounds so that you save everything left that you have for the actual Papaback boss fights. Now, a Wonder Bar being popped right before you get to this island would also be great so that you have a good chance of spawning in with a mutant injection to help you clear a good amount of the zombies. But unfortunately, in our playthrough, folks, we didn't really have many lives left. Rambo certainly did, but his game unfortunately crashed. Nothing he could have done about it. Even if he managed to join back in, we would have had to finish one of these high rounds before he can pop back in. And at that point, maybe would have had his fate, but certainly not his upgraded arsenal. So the run ended up being chalked. But huge shout out and full credit to Rambo for some of this boss fight gameplay that you guys are going to be seeing here in this video. Once again, check out his channel linked down below in this video's description. When the boss spawns in on round 80, this will be a very tight fight where your heart's going to be racing pretty damn quick. You got all the zombies spawning in. You obviously have the lightning rods there, which you can take advantage of to kill some of the extra zombies. Abominations will spawn. So this is where you want a lightning boost past any of the zombies. Don't get downed by them. If you're going to go down, then let it be from the actual Papaback. But if you get a rhino, if you can call in a dog, if you could run some trains, then you can focus all your firepower on the Papaback himself. And Rambo and his God tier team made it look easy, of course, right? This is his God tier squad they ended up getting first in the world with when beating Dead Ops Arcade 4. Obviously, the Papaback has the ability, like previous Silverbacks, to launch into the air and land right on top of you. Watch out for the X on the ground with wherever he's going to land. And there's also a chance he pulls out a ray gun on you. He can actually fire weapons at you, so that can also be a very easy opportunity to go ahead and take it down. Now, you also got to keep an eye out for the Abomination that'll also spawn in. I feel like the clutter isn't all that bad during this boss. It almost feels like this boss fight is a little bit more straightforward, a little bit simpler than some of the previous Dead Ops Arcade bosses. Then again, you're watching some God tier players take care of all the zombies pretty flawlessly. But I would also mention, if 3 of you are up, but then a 4th player on your squad is completely dead and waiting to come back up after a good 50 seconds, feel free to donate a life. I think it was up or down on D-pad to go ahead and do that. Make sure all players are absolutely locked in who are in that match to make sure that 80-round run ends in a victory. But once the Papaback is defeated, folks, that's going to be it. Vitalina is saved, you'll get an achievement, and you will unlock the Coin Operator camo, which you can apply to any Black Ops 7 weapon in any game mode. You'll then have access to the Slayer Mart again, in which the game will then repeat and you could choose to play it again in the same match. But really want to say thank you to the Detonated team, Taco and Sniper, for joining me for this match, and especially Rambo for also providing us with this universal camo footage. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.